Yo, 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 what's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Nate the Great coming at you with another live. You already know if you're new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. To all the returning friends and family, you already know it's peace and blessings. I'm gonna give y'all some time to tune in case these notifications go out. What's going on, guys? First things first, you already know. Hopefully, everybody having a Taco Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. Hopefully, everybody was able to smoothly get through the workday. Hopefully, your kids was able to get through the school day. But those celebrating birthdays, I know it's the last, 2 days of Libra season. About to run right into Scorpio season. So, those celebrating birthdays this week, hopefully, y'all keep yourselves, you know, vigilant as always, observant, and enjoy every moment of your special day. Geraldine, baby. Dee Dee, baby. Appreciate everybody that tuned in Saturday for the conversation, also for the little musical vibes. Definitely was a great one. Like I said, I always get some form of variety when it comes to me. But yeah, it definitely was a great conversation overall. And for those that missed it, y'all can catch the replay. Um, it might not be too crazy, and I just want to chop it up about a few things. So you already know. Apparently, uh, from what I was reading, apparently it seems like everybody in the United States might be getting a little $2,000 boost. Yeah. Unlike the stimulus package, uh, it's supposed to be for offsetting inflation as we speak right now. You know how we see things right now is things on the rise. Prime example, like I said, food, the basic necessities is going up. Cost of living, depending on where you at, these things are going up little by little. Prices on the things that you need, especially for a household. If you have a household, it definitely is getting a little expensive. So apparently, they actually started sending some of these checks out last week sometime. Um, and apparently, for those who don't have direct deposit, they should be receiving paper checks or debit cards with that $2,000. How do I feel about this overall? Because I don't know. Sometimes they'll say something, but they really won't. London, baby. But then again, uh, the last time around we got a little package like that. It really wasn't nothing to be played with. Everybody thought they wasn't getting nothing, and some people did get something right away. Some people did. So again, just expect it. Sassy baby. I don't know. I don't understand. Only thing I don't understand about this situation right here is that yeah, it might sound good, and for some people it might be a little form of relief. Not a big form, but a little form of relief. But in the same token, if this is supposed to be for trying to help with certain things, $2,000 to be quite honest ain't really enough. Be honest with you, because there are other underlying factors. Now, for some people that might get that 2,000, That's probably going to help you as far as your rent, just in case if your rent did increase a significant amount, or you might have certain bills, whether car payments or whatever the case is. You know, I mean, like I said, it's a little relief, but in the same token, that's exactly what it is—a little relief. And for some people, I'm sorry to say, it seems like the minute they get it, it's going to be gone. You know, for those who don't really have much to worry about, you know, you basically in the clear. You know, but for others, I see the minute that it comes to your account, whether it's bank or whatever, some of y'all gonna spend it foolishly instead of trying to come up or think of something to maybe try to help invest in something. You know, I'm gonna say in some instances, some of y'all should try to take your little funds and try to navigate and invest in something that's gonna bring you something. Like I said, things are about to start getting a little more hectic before it gets better. So yeah, despite it only being 2000, it still be something. You know? But I would say for some of y'all again, think wisely and invest wisely, or just spend wisely. If you can manage to make that stretch for a little bit, you do so. Me personally, uh, like I said, I'm not no investor or nothing, but I believe some people should invest in certain stocks and options. Like prime example, investing in fast food chains. That's one start. You know, you definitely get you a little pretty penny, whether the market is up or down, from what I read or from what I see sometimes. But also investing in certain corporations, anything to do with energy, electricity, or even shoot, even invest in agriculture. Do something that you know for a fact that is going to definitely get you a little penny. For a lot of people, they getting into the technology field and stock market, so invest in that if you feel that's something you want to invest in. The goal is to try to, you know, make sure you're good with the decision that you made, and again, just let it work for you. For some people, they gonna think it's an instant. Oh, I'm gonna get some money as soon as I no. You gotta let it build up first. From what I've seen, you gotta let things build up. You know, for some people, y'all make sure y'all keep yourselves safe when it comes down to your bank accounts as well too, because yeah, they still trying to do certain scams, and especially when it's dealing with your investments, or it's dealing with your money overall. And that's something you really don't want to have to worry about. Um, but make sure you are getting those notifications just in case if anything does seem, you know, suspicious or don't seem like it's something that came from your end. Serious, baby. Well, I would tell you this, sis, before you just put your money into anything again, do your investments. Well, my fault. Do your investigations, basically. And just do your research. You know, see if you could, see if you could find somebody or find something in particular to where it'll break it down for you easy. Happy Taco Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. Everybody's still pulling in. But yeah, I would say for some of y'all, that's the best bet right now. Because that little 2000 going to come and go. You know, so you got to think about it. They saying if you filed taxes in 2024, that you'll be eligible for that little $2,000 package. But for some of it, like I said, what is some of y'all gonna do with that? I mean, I know that's just like I said, it's a little something. It ain't much, but in the same token, it could help you or it could pay out in the long run, depending. Riders, baby. Y'all already know if y'all just tuned in, hit the like button. But yeah, reading that, like I said, the only difference between that and that stimulus package was because the world sat still. So it was a whole bunch of things that was going on, and that's why it was needed. Think about it. Once everything shut down, you basically in a crippled state. But this is just to help out with situations depending on what it is. Could be your rent, like I said, could be payments and stuff you probably behind on, or even invest that in certain things. If you need certain things around the house redone, you know, it don't hurt. You know, I believe so, Geraldine. I thought about that at one point, but like I said, I'm still trying to do my little research and investigation on things. So, but I believe you do have to have a certain amount. It would almost be the same thing like if you opening up a savings account. You got to put a certain amount in to even open that account. So I would say find something that's within your range if you are still want to try to navigate and do that. You know, I don't advise anybody to do anything if they don't have full knowledge or information on what they trying to do. I'm just throwing it out there as a suggestion because again, some people can get the simplest things and make something happen out of that, but they don't think. They just quick to spend it as soon as it comes. Yeah, I gotta go get this. Yeah, I gotta go do this. Yeah, I gotta go show off. But you won't be showing off and could possibly face eviction if you ain't getting your stuff together. And for some of y'all right now, being how some of y'all might be going through partial evictions or maybe even going through it as it is, that will come in handy because hopefully that will help you get towards getting some form of housing or getting your situation in order. You know, because again, some of y'all want to avoid trying to go through that scenario and that situation. Especially we nearing the holidays. Nobody really wants to be out there homeless. Nobody really wants to be out there struggling, trying to figure out what's what. But you gotta, like I said, invest wisely or spend wisely. I would say for some of y'all, hey, since y'all want to be your own entrepreneurs, do what you gotta do. You spend some of that money on the things that are needed that you know is gonna bring you a couple dollars, or that's gonna bring you some decent money. For some of y'all, I would say have a damn bake sale or go back to the traditional ways of making some hard-earned money on the side if that's what you really want to do. You know, because right now the way everything is panning out, it looks like it's going to again get a little worse before it gets better. Some of y'all who are trying to get your vendor's license, go find out what you need to get everything in order. I would say for some of y'all, invest and try to get you a food truck, get you a little food stand, get you a little anything you feel is going to make you a little bit of money. Do it, especially if you have the knowledge and the skill sets to make it work. Like I said, when it comes down to certain things, it's not going to happen right away. It's not going to progress right away. But that's the whole thrill of certain ventures and scenarios because again, you get to navigate everything. You know, but you're navigating at your own pace to a degree too. So I would say for some of y'all, just try to get your licenses in order, your all your criteria, your certificates. Try to find you a nice little spot where you could park up, especially if you are planning on getting a food truck. Shoot, for some of y'all, I know it ain't easy trying to navigate, especially when the way things are moving in the world right now. But in all actuality, you have to take your time. And again, just try to figure out the positive scenarios of everything. I hear you, Geraldine, and it's true. Again, whatever you feel is a good investment, you make sure you do whatever. Again, because there are a lot of things changing right now in this economy. You don't want to be, holding the short end of the stick. So, your best bet and your best goal is to again navigate. For some of y'all, investing in certain things will definitely be the outcome for you. You know, like I said, for some of y'all, if y'all had invested, if you really trying to get something going, again, who don't love food? That's the best option right there. You know, try to get a little food establishment in order. For some of y'all, hey, you do what you know to do or do what you know is going to make it work for you. Prime example is some of y'all that love to sell plates. I don't care if you live in the hood or not. There's a lot of y'all that like to sell dinner plates. Get that going. Again, take some money, go grab up the things that you know you might need. You know, for some of y'all, hey, have a fish fry. Aaron, what's going on, my guy? It's been a minute. Been a minute, my guy. Hope all well with you. Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. For some of y'all, food, any type of food investment or food venture, I ain't gonna lie to you, you know, it'll definitely be a good outlook. Like I said, start off small, start off with something that you know you could manage, and then you know, you constantly climb up the ladder. You know, some people already got, investments in trucks and certain things like that. So, you know, let that be your investment. Let that be your money making opportunity. That's what I'm saying. We have a lot of different avenues we could run down, and try to expand our horizon. Especially when we do get some form of assistance or a little bit of assistance. You can make basically anything happen from the smallest pieces of information that are given to you. Yeah, I mean, because come on now. Like I said, right now, who don't like food? Like prime example, this past summer in my area, yeah, you got a lot of food, got a lot of food vendors, but you also got a lot of established restaurants and things around that nature. But, like I said, it's enough room for everybody to make a dollar. Because shoot, what one competitor might not have, you might have. So if that's where you plan on going with your little bit of money and investments, again, make sure you doing everything possible. Get your papers in order, and you do what you got to do. The one thing I could respect about those independent vendors is they wasn't parked in front of nobody's establishment. I've always said it like this. The competition shouldn't literally be up on each other. Whether it's something major or it's something small. You know, hold on 1 second. Let me catch up with the chat. Um, it's no problem. It's no problem. Serious. If you do end up seeing the link, could you please drop that link? Like I said, it's just I'm all for trying to give out some form of information, no matter what it is, you know. But yeah, like I said, take your take your time, take the necessary steps, and you do what you got to do. You never know what can turn. You never know what could turn out to be something great if you don't put that time and energy and effort into it. Prime example, you get you a nice little truck, and you end up parking somewhere where you're not really around the competition, but you're in a spot where people are going to walk by. It's all about location, you know. So if you got a nice little spot where you could set up at, whether it's prime realty or not, you'd be surprised what you could make happen. You'd be surprised how much you could turn up. You know, your small investment can end up being a big time investment, especially if you're able to grow and expand your business. You know, you might have one truck now, could mess around and end up getting another little truck. Or you can end up making some money from that truck and end up getting a spot, end up getting a building or something. You know, again, you just got to put your mind to it. Got to put your mind to it, definitely, you know. My fault, y'all. You know, me workflow, but I got to also be on point to some degree. I don't like when people start staring and looking at things they ain't supposed to be staring and looking at. But yeah, you know, I think that's important. It's important to structure yourself out and try to make whatever you have work in your best interest. This way, you'll be able to set a blueprint, especially for the family tree. You know, you have some people who cry about no opportunities or there's not a lot of opportunities, but you could again create your own opportunities if you're willing to do what's necessary. Like I said, take the time and effort in yourself. Learn the skills that you need to learn, but also, again, trusting yourself, trusting your better judgment. Not saying blindly just go out there and invest in something that could possibly go belly up, but you know, just follow your instincts. If it feels right, you go for it. If it don't feel right, or if it just feel like it's too good to be true, do your research on it before you invest in it. But remember, scared money don't make no money. So if that's what you're trying to do, you know, you're trying to quote unquote create some more passive income. And that's what I would suggest for a lot of people. If you're not fully where you should be at as far as your financials is concerned, that would be the best way I would figure for you to try to gain a little extra money. Get you a legal side hustle where you know for a fact you're gonna be collecting something. If you're looking for the money right now, like I said, your best bet, you better get your little food truck, or better start selling them dinners, or better start having some barbecues while the weather is still decent. Do anything possible, but you know, make something happen. Some people, hey, they taking some money, they investing in candy, and they doing that. You know, again, you got to be willing to make the adjustments and make the necessary steps towards that. So even if you are still getting some form of assistance, that assistance should only help you temporarily until you're ready to get where you need to be at. You know, like I said, there's a lot of different things changing, and it's going to get critical for some of y'all if you don't start getting yourselves in order. But for those who might be receiving that or have already received that, you know, again, think wisely about that money you was just given. So like I said, if your name is still on file for people who filed in 2024, trust me, some of y'all probably already got that money or probably will be getting that money either before this month is out or even going into sometime November. That was from what I was reading. Like I said, if you end up getting that, better think twice about going crazy because some of y'all, like I said, you quick to spend up any money that's given to you, especially when you know it's free money. But you better think about investing and you better think about trying to get certain things in order. Because again, if you're in an area where the price of living is going up or your rent has, definitely increased, you still got to keep a roof over your head. So don't mess around and get put in that hot seat. And that's one thing, again, you know, it's important to always keep your options open and make sure you are making the right type of investments for your life. In order to avoid certain situations like debt, again, live within your means, do what's necessary. Don't overspend what you don't need to. But you got to think about it too. There's some of y'all who claim you don't want to go to an office or don't want to get yourselves up. Well, you could do something from home or online. But again, it's going to have to take time and dedication. And if you ain't dedicated to trying to change any aspect of life, then this is something you shouldn't want to get into. Like I said, I think it's important for some of y'all to invest in yourselves and make a way, make a blueprint. This way, again, you know, you're showing the blueprint to family and showing them how to do it. Anybody who's trying to make it on their own, doing it independently, I respect you. I respect it because, again, you are taking your chances and you are starting from the bottom. Nothing is ever going to be easy in life, but there are some things that should just be an easy choice and a decision. Do you want to be stuck at the bottom or do you want to rise to the top? The question that should be asked or a question that should be veering in your head. And if you are trying to rise to the top or you want to make it successfully, how are you going to do it? How are you going to make it happen? So that's something to think about, especially if you are getting some form of assistance. Think before you do. I think that is an important thing to do. Think before you do. Any form of financials that is coming your way, any form of blessings that's coming your way, just think before you do it. And make sure that it's going to work for you. On all parameters, make sure it's going to work for you. Now, again, for those who might be eligible, you might not have to do much. Like how you had to do for some of y'all had to fill out paperwork and do all that other stuff when it came to that stimulus package. When it comes down to this package, apparently, like I said, you don't have to do much. If your name is already on the damn tax filings from last year, you'll be getting something. You know? But again, you better think wise before you go crazy. If y'all think $2,000 outfit is more important than your future endeavors, sadly wrong. If you think spending that 2,000 on nonsense is more important than you keeping a roof over your head, you are sadly mistaken. If you think not trying to do what's necessary with that money is more important than again trying to stunt and flash for the people, you are sadly mistaken. That's just my view and opinion on it. Can't cry about being broke or being in debt or not having certain things when you have multiple opportunities to do it and you're not doing it. I know we all want to acquire nice little things and that might mean something to some, but again, if it's not important at the time frame, hey, you're gonna have to make do and you're gonna have to compromise. Appreciate you for dropping those links, serious baby. Working hard in these damn security cameras, baby. I hear you, Geraldine. And see, that's the thing. This thing that's coming for most people, if it hasn't already been sent out, is nothing like the stimulus package. I mean, it still might be the same amount. Well, actually, no. I believe it's $500 more than what it was the last time. I believe that stimulus package everybody got was like 1,500. For some people, they might have got 2,000. This one, like I said, is just going to help with some of the offset as far as you know prices on groceries, cost of living, et cetera, et cetera. So, like I said, for anybody who has done whatever, y'all should be good. So, just be on the lookout. Um, Another thing I did read that I found kind of funny. I don't know how to go about it, but I'm gonna go about it just for a little bit and just tackle that real quick. Apparently, for those who smoke marijuana, apparently a law might be passed to where if you smoke marijuana, you might not be able to purchase or carry a firearm. I don't know how true that is, but if that is something that's really going to happen, I don't know. I would say for some of y'all, it's going to be a tricky situation. To be quite honest, I feel like this. What does anybody smoking marijuana got to do with owning a gun? You don't hear stories of people going out after smoking some marijuana, whether it's the strongest of the strong or the weakest of the weak, and going out and doing something to somebody. Now you might get that from somebody that's on some form of pills, some form of cocaine, heroin, meth, even alcohol. But weed, excuse my language, but weed, you gonna tell somebody they can't own something because they smoke weed, even if it's recreational? What does that got to do with them protecting their family in case they have to protect their family? And that's the part I don't get. Like I said, they trying to create a lot of different scenarios as far as changing laws or imposing new laws. How that affects some people, I don't know. Now I said, now like I said, with this situation right here, I don't know how that's gonna affect some people. It sounds funny for you to say, well, if you smoke weed, you can't have a gun. But in the same token, I feel almost everybody who is a homeowner, who has a family to protect, should own one. As long as they ain't walking around with it, as long as they ain't doing nothing out of the ordinary, what does that got to do with anything? I could have seen you saying if you are doing other drugs or have just been clean from other drugs, you might not be able to gain one. That'd be a different story. But marijuana, I'm sorry, that's just hilarious in my book. When I read that, I just looked and said, "How is that going to help?" Again, and it's just funny. And like I said, trying to change up everything little by little. So for some of y'all, again, start paying attention to what you need to pay attention to. We know some of these things are just distractions and diversions, but then we got other things that could actually affect us at some point. Like I said, what don't affect one family or one group of people might affect somebody else. Now we all know, when it comes down to owning a gun, they already had certain things that was implemented and put in place. Like we know a felon is not supposed to have, or a convicted felon or former convicted felon should never have their hands on a gun, right? But I still got the question of what does marijuana got to do with you owning a gun? And why would that be something necessary to be put into place or be put into law? If anything, you should focus more on gun safety, gun safety measures, even for families, if you're going to do anything along those lines. Like I said, the things that some people should think about, they ain't thinking about. I don't know, just it's funny when you look at some of the things that are being reported today. In some instances, they probably already have started certain things, and we are probably just now hearing about it. That was one thing I did find funny as far as reading things in the news. Now, would that affect everybody in the United States? I'm not sure. But I believe, like most things, when you try to implement certain things, it's going to start state by state. Which state will it start in? Never know. But then again, like I said, it's being talked about. I don't necessarily mean it is passed. Because, you still got to get approval from certain ones before you can even put certain things in order. So, but be on the lookout, y'all, for that at least. Because, again, I don't know how that's going to affect anybody, but I still find that to be one hilarious law that's supposed to be getting passed. Another thing I want to talk about today, and I feel is needed to be talked about for those who are creating platforms, creating these podcasts, whether it's major podcasts or starting from the bottom. I'm gonna say for some of y'all who are doing these talks and debates, and you're gonna add certain people to these platforms, again, there has to be some form of order and decorum when it comes down to having a full blown conversation. I remember I spoke about this a while back, but I'm gonna speak about it again. There are some that you want to take an interest in, or some that you really want to watch, But it's hard to watch when you have certain ones on these platforms that are just doing the utmost. Like prime example, I'm gonna say this, but some of y'all ladies out there, and I'm gonna get on some of you men too, but for some of you ladies out there that be on these platforms, the whole goal of a conversation is letting everybody get theirs off. Oh shoot, the biggest raccoon I just seen. Look at that fat fuck. My bad, y'all. My bad. Got distracted by raccoon sighting. But yeah. Um, to be quite honest, there's some of y'all who again need to learn etiquette and decorum before you get on these platforms. Especially again, you know you're gonna be on a platform with men. You know, it's hard for anybody to really have a conversation. Well, let me say this. That you know it's gonna be other men and women on these platforms. You are supposed to have a certain amount of time to speak your piece and get your rocks off. And then allow somebody else to interject or intervene and but and what I've been seeing in some situations, that's not the way it's going. And to be quite honest, it's it's not a good look. It's not a good look because again, if we supposed to be having a conversation, we supposed to be trying to get to a common peace and a common goal of figuring out a problem or trying to solve a major problem. How can we do so when we over talking each other? Some of us is long winded. That's one thing. You can't be long winded and try to be in these type of conversations. Because again, it shouldn't take you 20 minutes to land your plane. Especially when you know you got something good. If you got something good, you should be able to hit all your talking points and your power points within a certain time frame. And then let everybody else interject. Let everybody else, into the conversation. I seen one when somebody was literally talking for almost a half an hour before anybody else, even the host themselves, got a word in. That ain't good. Because again, the goal is we knock out what we need to knock out, and then we try to go on to the next problem solve. There's some of y'all who are blatantly doing that and being disrespectful. And to be quite honest, that's not a form of chat or panel etiquette that should be accepted by anybody. If we supposed to be having a deep convo, and then here it is, you're sitting here, you're talking too loud, talking too much, you cutting people off, you're not staying on topic. Again, you're long winded. That's a problem right there. Exactly, a panel killer. Some of y'all gotta eliminate these people because I'm not gonna lie, there are some people who are just not gonna listen to reason or hear anything that you're saying because they are already trained to do something else outside of. Like there's some people you can't have on your panel because they're gonna play professional victim throughout the entirety of the live stream. And for some people, that is a mood killer. You know, why this person just keep crying and nagging, or why this person is doing this and why this person is doing that. Prime example, there's some shows that they want to try to keep it no longer than 2 hours, 3 hours at best, depending on what topics are being talked about. But it shouldn't be almost 2 hours before anybody could get anything off. That's the wrong form of etiquette. Like I said, if it's a question that's being asked in general, all right, well, listen, we're going to start the floor off with you. You got a couple minutes to speak your piece or give your insight or whatever, and then we're going to pass it down. But when you see a person that's consistently, even after they done got theirs or cutting others off, interjecting at the wrong points. Not saying that you can't interject, but in some tokens, it depends on what you're interjecting on. But other than that, no, it shouldn't be the minute the next person starts talking, they ain't even get 2 minutes in, and you already cutting them off from getting to getting to landing a plane. And there's some of y'all that I'm not gonna lie should never be on podcasts is because y'all really do take down the value of the content. And I say it like that because let's be real. Who wants to sit in on a debate or sit in on a good conversation of anything when there's consistent arguing, consistent disagreements, and again, just consistent and blatant disrespect. Again, it takes away from the content and it does take away from the overall conversation. Angela, baby. And again, there's some of y'all who need to work on your etiquette. You need to definitely work on your etiquette. Work on yourself in particular because it's needed. Because let's be real again, how can you enjoy or try to even gain something of knowledge and wisdom from a conversation when there's back and forth bickering? Another thing, like I said before, the name calling or just the blatant disrespect with somebody on the panel. That right there is getting corny. I've seen some people who will call these people all out their character, but you don't know these people personally. You might know them because they got a name for themselves or because of whatever, but in the same token, if you don't want to be disrespected, don't be the one being blatantly disrespectful because you're going to get that same energy you put out. And for some of y'all, again, and I'm speaking on both ends, not just for the females, the males too. Know what you're talking about or know your knowledge on whatever you're about to talk about before you just talk about it. Have all your ducks in order, you know, and then you do what you need to do. Because ain't the whole purpose of bringing good content and bringing good conversations, ain't that the purpose of doing that so this way we can come to some form of agreement and solutions? You know, read your chat if possible. If you're cooking with your commentary, I can understand that. You can't. It won't keep your chat. Well, if you want to keep your chat engaged, also acknowledge your people. Do a roll call. That's a whole fact. Chill, Will, baby. But yeah, like I said, I've seen some scenarios where men and women sat on a podcast together. They could be talking about what's going on as far as current events, relationships, whatever the topic at hand may be. And everybody that's on that panel, whether it's 4 people, 8 people, 10 people, all have been able to get their points and views across, land their planes. Nobody blatantly interrupted or disrespected or just messed up the whole vibes. There's some people who really do mess up vibes when they trying to talk about something. Appreciate you, chill, baby. And again, if we gonna sit here and try to come with better solutions, then again, how we gonna get to that if we constantly cutting each other off, constantly disrespecting each other? Nothing is gonna ever get solved or nothing is ever gonna get put into perspective, you know. Again, know what you're talking about or know what the topic at hand is before you just go up there. And I would say for some people, if you're unaware or uninformed on what the topic could be about, then sit back and relax and listen. Like again, you got some people who will come on, sit around, but they gonna listen to something, you know. But there's nothing wrong with that, you know. If you really can't add to the conversation, but you still want to be a part of, hey, just sit back and listen. I get some interesting gems and jewels that can help along the way, depending on what the scenario is. I would say, prime example, if y'all gonna have discussions about relationships, you're gonna talk about it from both, both cylinders or from multiple cylinders, then again, gotta have an open mind and an open ear. And that means don't listen just to respond. No, then listen to react. No. Receive the information correctly, and then you respond correctly or respond accordingly. You know, the goal and focus and pushing, keep it authentic. But again, just make sure you getting out the info. In some cases, you're not going to be able to do that because guess what? Again, you're going to have some people who you think are going to be able to function correctly and stay on point and stay on topic and stay professional, but they not, because some of them again are going to have this trained mindset. I don't want to hear nothing you talking about. I don't care about what you talking about. I only care about what I'm talking about and my points against the cross. And I've seen some people like that. That's a pure form of narcissism right there. If I'm supposed to be having a group collective with a with a group, I'm supposed to maintain my professionalism. Whether I agree with you or not on your views and opinions, it shouldn't be taken for granted. It shouldn't be disrespected. You know. And you're right, serious. They will derail the content if they not doing, if they not keeping certain things in order. Now, again, you might have to do some editing, but I would say if you had a scenario and certain things didn't turn out right or went left, because not every podcast show is going to end on some, right note. Some will, some won't. But if you know you're going to have to do some editing, you know, I would say in some instances, you keep in the most important talking points and parts, because we know some people don't really like to do the live streaming. They'll do a pre-recorded or do whatever. But even if you are going to go live, again, have some etiquette and decorum. You know, because again, the goal is to bring the content and bring it in the best pure form that you can. It won't be pure if you got conversations overlapping each other, or you got people overlapping and over talking each other. Like prime example, if somebody is in the midst of making that point of what the topic is about, and you still have this impulse to cut them off, and you trying to quote unquote correct them, or you not trying to let them finish what they need to finish, that's a problem. Because there's some of y'all who will claim, "Oh, you're not letting me talk. You're not letting me do this. You're not letting me do that." But here it is, you're interrupting others when they trying to get theirs across. And these be people that haven't interrupted you, haven't done anything outside of just listen when you talk. So why you can't do the same thing? You know. Again, some of y'all have this habit of not wanting to listen or hear what's being said. Or you hear what's being said, but you're not listening to the overall focal point in the message and will go off somewhere else. That's not a good look neither. Again, stick on topic. Make sure you heard what you heard And if you felt like you missed something, not hard to say, can you repeat what you just said? You have different divisions on this application. There's some that are all over the place with their content. You can't make heads or tails of what the show is about. I tuned out by that time. I hear you. Because this is my thing, when it comes down to bringing content, you have to be on point. And even if you go on freestyle it, again, the goal is sticking on point and sticking on topic with what you're bringing. And if it's going to be a random conversation for that day, again, make sure everybody is on the same page. Know when somebody is speaking, give them their time to speak and do whatever. But also for some of those who love to just speak and hear themselves talk, you got to remember, if you're sharing a panel with more than a few people, you have to cut certain things short. You can't just be, again, long-winded. If I done heard you talk for 10 minutes and you're not the host, that's a problem. I would expect the host to talk for that portion of time, depending on if they, introducing everybody, might be playing some music, trying to get certain things in order so y'all can start the convo. Cool. But when the topic is already started, again, everybody should have at least a 3 minute time span to, I would say 3 to 5 minutes at best, to try to put out what you're gonna put out as far as the topic is concerned. And then everybody should get their fair share. And I can understand for some people, depending on the conversation, you could be extremely passionate about it. But again, you have to remember, if you have other people who want to jump in on the conversation, and that they should add to it, you kind of knocking them off from doing it. And again, you want to try to keep the people engaged. I think that's the most important thing. Again, trying to keep everybody engaged, whether it's the people in the chat or the people on the panel or even people who might just be popping into the conversation. Doesn't matter. But again, for some of y'all men and women out there, y'all gotta learn to stop blatantly being disrespectful and cutting people off. Also, again, have some respect and some mannerisms when you go on these platforms. Prime example, if they say you don't really want no profanity, gotta uphold to that. And if you can't, then you should sit back. Join in on another conversation when they decide they're gonna do something like that. Again, there has to be order. And I think that's the one thing people fail to realize. No matter what, you gotta have some form of order. So, and for the content creators, the host of the show, if you don't have no type of order in your court, basically, trust me, ain't gonna end well. In some instances, you might run some people off. Because if some people think they coming to get something good, they see you ain't got no type of control of the situation, they ain't gonna take it serious. Or some people will start tuning in only because they think it's gonna be nonsense and drama. But if you are doing certain things on a professional level and not on a dramatic level, yeah, have some form of order. Make sure that the people bring it onto your platforms. Again, understand the assignment and is willing to do what's necessary. You know, you have to know what will keep the chat engaged, find topics that hold productive use of what the channel is about. Well, I got too many notifications going on as we speak. If you're a variety channel, do a variety of things. Facts. That's the truth. You know, like I said, I know there's some of y'all who are doing these podcasts and talking about general topics or talking about, political things. And again, I'm all for it. I feel men and women can coexist on a lot of these panels. Again, it's just about having etiquette and decorum. And again, if it should be something where everybody again can get their view and opinion on it, and there should be no real arguments. I mean, even if there are some disagreements and certain things that are said, again, it's a way to go about it to where it won't be considered disrespectful. You won't feel disrespected. You let it be known right there and there. See, prime example, I drop the link, I have the link pinned. You see what I do. Prime example of come up, have a great conversation. Nobody's talking to each other. Nobody's long-winded. And everybody's, basically having a good time having these conversations. That's what you really want, though. No matter what you're doing on your podcast shows, you want to make sure that everybody's interacting and having fun. But also, again, getting something important and informative. You know, it's really what these podcasts and these shows are built for. Bringing in some form of information, and trying to reach the mass in the best way possible. Part of the wind in the background, y'all. You're gonna get a little bit of that. It feel like how it's supposed to feel. The old New York City. But yeah, again, I've seen one, maybe two, and watched the whole video and was able to watch it from the beginning to the end. And actually got something good out of the information that was given. Whereas in some instances, man, listen, you're probably only going to get 5 to at best 10, 15 minutes of something good before it becomes an argument or fight, you know? So, you just gotta be airy about that, you know? Like I said, if you want to build a platform like that, again, everybody should be able to get their points across. That's the most important thing. Getting your point across, having some great dialect, and then, going on to the next topic, proceeding on to the next topic. And if there are certain conversations that could be triggering to some, then I would advise y'all to, try to get yourself in that state of getting through it. Or just don't involve yourself in the conversation at all. Or just watch from a distance. And, because again, I know there's some things that will trigger people. And this is what I'm saying too. If you're easily triggered over any little thing, you definitely shouldn't be on the podcast. And that's both men and women. I'm sorry, because there's some people that the minute you having a certain conversation and they get triggered, that's crazy. And that's not the way it should go. And another thing I would say for some of y'all is that there's nothing but facts unless you have knowledge on something that can counteract that. Just accept it for what it is. See the problem with some people? Y'all don't want to face or hear the truth, but y'all will kindly condone in the lie, or you will kindly go with the lie. It's more comfortable for y'all. You know, again, if knowledge is being given and it's true knowledge, it's not nonsense, then hey, you know, accept it for what it is. But yeah, it's good to do that. Because again, if you're gonna have these adult conversations and talks, then again, should be able to actually sit down and respect each other's thoughts and opinions. Give me 1 second, y'all. BMF, I ain't trying to hear that. That's crazy. I walk away for a second and I still don't see no scratch off for lottery tickets. Don't come in here with that nonsense. I told you I got time today. I got time today. Nah, what's going on, bro? I don't want to hear nothing serious. Lock that door. He ain't going nowhere. You gonna pass those darn scratch offs. If anybody else see him moving for that door, karate chop his ass. No, but I feel like this again. Um, if you're gonna have these conversations, again, you gotta be an adult about it. There's some of y'all that go in with this mentality of immaturity. I don't want to hear nothing nobody say. I'm not trying to hear nobody else's views and opinions on things. And that's not the way it should happen. You know, if somebody is giving you the space and a platform and opportunity to let yourself be out there and get some shine, again, you gotta be professional about it. You can't sit here and assume that, oh well, I'm gonna keep coming on these platforms, I'm gonna keep doing the same thing, and then thinking you're gonna go from platform to platform doing that. No, because there are gonna be some platforms who really are strict and they going to stick to their guns when it comes to certain things. So if they mean no profanity, that's what it means. That means no cursing at all. And if you can't control yourself, then that's not a place you should try to visit because again, you will get sat there. You know, if they tell you they don't want anything that could be considered deemed as hate speech or promoting violence or anything along those lines, you gotta respect it. You know, I hear you, BMF. That still don't mean nothing. With my damn scratch off tickets. Now I'm glad you got to be able to get out and go do something. Don't worry, serious. You're gonna get a raise. You're gonna get a raise. You might get a raise. You might get a raise. I don't know. Mhm. But yeah, it's just again, you gotta respect the people's platforms that are letting you come up there. So again, whatever the rules and regulations may be, gotta follow the rules and regulations of the house. And if you're not gonna be able to do so, you're not gonna be able to go too much of any place doing that same thing or acting the way you act. But all in all, though, for those who have been doing the content, who have been having panels, especially the ones that, again, you got males and females having strong conversations, keep pushing the same, keep pushing the same positivity. You know, it's good to see, and I mean it, it's good to see that you have panels that can actually coexist without it being blatant disrespect or fighting. Now, I've seen some situations, and I'm gonna say this again to some of y'all women out there. Y'all really gotta keep your hands to yourselves because there's gonna be a time when somebody is not gonna care putting their hands on you. I was watching the show and everything was seeming like it was going good, and then somebody got out of pocket. Now you can't sit here and give that aggression and that energy, but then play and cry victim. And again, for some people, it's time for y'all to read the damn room. If you see somebody, doesn't matter, male or female, being too aggressive or it's getting to a point where people are feeling uncomfortable and unsafe, as the host and anybody that's associated with it, you're gonna have to get in control of that. Now, there should be no reason just because you might have a disagreement with somebody about something that was said that you decide you want to raise up on them and put your hands on them. Again, I talked about this the other day, and I'm gonna say this again. Some of y'all keep your damn hands to yourselves. Y'all cannot come with that toxic energy. See, you want to talk about toxic masculinity, right? But here it is, you're showing prime examples of it. You want to be loud, aggressive, you want to fight. You're going to get enough of that because you're going to have somebody who don't care and they going to lay you on your ass. And what you going to do then? Call the cops? Call your brothers in them? Yeah, you'll do all that, but you ain't going to tell them what all happened. You're going to tell them a partial of the story until they get the full story and find out you was the one being the aggressor. You don't have to be the aggressor to get your point across or just to disagree with somebody, you know? But yeah, it's just something to think about. Because even that will mess up the content and its whole. And who really, again, like some people who really want to go through all of that editing, you know, that takes away because prime example, it's some situations where a conversation was still being had and then a fight break out. That ruins all the content and that ruins all the flow that was happening. Like if everybody is on a cylinder cooking on something and then a fight breaks out, what you think is gonna happen? It messes up the content. Now you got to edit that part out. And it could have been something important that one of them probably said, but you ain't gonna get a chance to hear it. Not unless you decide to put it out there as far as these are the lost clips or these are the lost edits of some of the shows. And some people do that. But then again, like I said, if you're gonna have adult conversations, then it's time for y'all to train your brains like adults. Y'all can have disagreements, without being immature about it or without being physically violent. I don't condone DV, but if you raise your hands to me or lay your hands on me, you will be sorry. Trust me. I don't blame you, serious. And in some instances, like I said, you're gonna have scenarios like that. Like that guy had restraint because he could have got up and cold clocked her. She was only but so big. But the point is, again, make sure you got adequate security, or like especially for some of y'all who are building these podcasts from the ground up. Make sure you got proper security, so just in case if something does try to transpire, y'all can calm it down before it does become something. But I honestly feel in some instances, security should only be there just in case of people try to bum rush the set or do whatever the case is. But when it comes to certain conversations, it should never get physical. Again, you're supposed to be having, a meeting of the minds, basically. You know, like again, for some of y'all, you don't like something that a man said, and a man could have told you some truth, and you want to be quick to violence. That's not a good look. Not a good look at all. And again, you put out a certain amount of energy, it's going to come back to you, whether you prepared for it or not. Because trust me, you're going to go on certain platforms or on certain events, and they're not going to tolerate all of that. So all of that loud, aggressive behavior on either end is going to get chop blocked. And it's a bad look on you because guess what? You might try to go to different platforms or you might try to go to different outlets and they're not going to allow you, especially if they know this is what you consistently do. There's some people right now kicking themselves because, again, they can't get on certain platforms and certain stages because people already done got a backstory and a backdraft of you. Nobody want that, especially when they trying to create the best content. So again, it's best for some of y'all to learn some etiquette and decorum before you decide to make your way on these platforms. I'm not saying people shouldn't have their views and opinions on certain topics, but if you can't keep it on a mature level, then don't bring it. Don't even be a part of the conversation. Just sit back, relax, and listen. You might get something. But again, that over talking and cutting people off just because you want to hear yourself talk. Yeah, there are a lot of people out there like that. Yeah, I need to get it together because again, people are gonna start losing interest in these conversations. James, what's going on? I see the coffee cups in the chat. But this is what I'm saying. I might have said something, prime example, that somebody didn't agree with. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna disregard anything, or that doesn't mean I gotta get over my feelings about it. You know, if I said what I believed in and I stood firm on it, hey, you can say what you want to say if you stand and believe in it and stand firm on it. We could agree to disagree and then we'll move on to a different topic until we able to come back to the table with that conversation. You know. But see, again, you gotta think about it too. For some situations, people ain't trying to be on there for no 4, 5, 6 hours. So if y'all can try to do a certain time limit, or if that's what you plan on doing, and trying to get through everything within that time frame to do so. But again, make sure you got the quorum and make sure you got people who are respectful to the platforms. And my thing is, overall, I've always felt like this. If you got somebody that's consistently impulsive and always trying to overtalk and override the situation, you need to mute them or sit them down somewhere until they able to get themselves together. Point blank, period. I watched one where this guy was trying to explain to this girl about patriarchy, and she could not shut the hell up. Sorry to say it that way. She really just couldn't shut up. Like, even before he could finish or before he could get to his main points, you go cutting somebody off. If you don't have knowledge on certain things, or if you still unaware of what was being said, how about you again listen before you just start jabbing off at the mouth? Because how are you going to learn something, or how is something going to be conveyed in the best way possible when you're not willing to stop talking? Sometimes it's good to listen because you're doing a lot of talking, and again, you could be missing out on something very important. So again, just have some decorum when it comes down to getting on these platforms, you know. And if you feel you don't got no form of self control, or then again, just sit back and enjoy the conversation from afar. Because again, y'all are taking away, and I'm speaking to those that need to hear it. Y'all are taking away from pure content, pure information that could be relayed and given out in a certain time frame. You're taking away from that because again, you want to be violent, or you want to be unruly, you want to be rude and interruptive. These are things that prime example when we was in school. We had to learn. Everybody need to take a turn when it comes down to talking about certain topics and conversations. But you can't be rude when somebody is talking. This is why sometimes it take people longer to get their point across, because again, you're interrupting or you're being disruptive all around the board. That's unprofessional and that's immature again. So it's time for some of y'all fellas and some of y'all ladies to get it together if you want to be on these platforms. And after a while, some people are just gonna get tired of the same old madness. And when you think you're gonna be popping up, nope, you're gonna be sitting right in the chat, or you're gonna be sitting right from afar watching it. Because again, after a while, nobody's gonna keep tolerating the same old mess. If I'm trying to put out a good podcast show where every podcast or every episode is something good, something different, something unique, but also something that's not just entertaining, but informative, can't do that when you got people who are willing to cause drama amongst the conversation. It's not going to get nowhere. You done spent over an hour talking about a piece of, a topic, and didn't cover the full topic. You want to try to cover what you can cover, and again, do it within a decent and a reasonable time. And to be quite honest, the immaturity sometimes could be a pain for the people who are on the platform with you. Some people will get highly frustrated and aggravated, like, well, damn, we can't finish a whole topic without it becoming an argument. It's not the way it should work, you know. And for some of y'all need to take notes, because I'm quite sure some of y'all watching, even if it's the biggest podcast or the smallest podcast, you're watching some of these shows. You're watching some of the content. And if you see that conversations are happening and there's no real arguments, no real disrespect, nobody leaving the conversation feeling the type of way, those are the things you should look forward to. You know? Because again, how we gonna create the best if we ain't looking the best? And again, if you don't have nothing constructive or informative to add to the conversation, and again, sit back and learn something. Sit back and listen to something. Nothing wrong with doing that. Like I said, I know for some y'all want to be involved, y'all want to be out there, and you want to be a good support, but you're not being a good support when you bring in the nonsense to platforms and it's always some form of disruption. Something to think about, again, because if you want to see the great results, again, you gotta be a part of bringing the great results. So again, do what's necessary for yourself before you just hop on these panels. And if you're unaware of what's going on, just sit back and observe, you know. And if it's something that you feel you could get with on the next convo or on the next tip, you decide you want to get on, you get on. But again, some of y'all have to work on your impulses. Because I could disagree with what somebody is saying, but I'm not going to be rude and just interrupt. Some of y'all don't care. You will blatantly interrupt that. But again, that toxic aggressive energy, that should not be something that's a part of the content. Not unless the show is based on that type of drama and whatever. Then, hey, you do what you do. But when it comes down to bringing great content, bringing great conversations and discussions amongst adults, a lot of that immature stuff should not be a factor in the show at all. So that's something for some of y'all to think about. Especially some of you content creators. Don't matter what platform you're using. Don't matter if you're doing live streams, pre-recorded, or premieres. Make sure if you're going to be doing something and you're bringing it with a bunch of people, you all are able to get your point across and not be interrupted. But when you know you got people who, again, can't get themselves in order, don't bring them up there. Because sure enough, you're going to consistently get the same old repeated patterns. That person going to be good probably 1 minute, and then the next minute is going to be something flying off the hinges. And another thing is, again, if you're going to be bringing information, make sure you're able to break down the information to where everybody understands it, everybody can comprehend it, and then it could be extended, you know. But yeah, just wanted to talk about those little couple things tonight. Um, like I said, it's always good to bring different scenarios to the table. But I'm gonna say again for those who wasn't in here for the beginning, like I said, apparently they supposed to be giving out these $2,000 checks. They done already started as of the 15th of this month. So some of y'all might get a little something, some of y'all might not. Some of y'all might get it, but it ain't gonna be right away. So just know that part. But again, be wise. It's not like you getting a whole lot. But be wise in whatever it is you gonna do with that money that's being given. I think I might get into that again. Uh I do want to kind of go into that about patriarchy. Uh because again, there's some people who have the most illest conceptions about what it really entails. But me, I try to break it down. Said $2,000. Keith, what's going on, my guy? Said they trying to buy your vote. Nah, I don't know, James. Apparently, like I said, they supposed to be giving out $2,000, but that's supposed to be again towards people who might have significant rent increases or bills that need to be caught up on, or supposed to be offsetting certain things when it comes to this inflation. But I believe it's just a mask up, you know. That's my opinion. It's a mask up because you're trying to give people that sense of stability again, but we already know how this is going to turn out. Like I said, some of those people are going to get that check if they ain't already got it, and that shit going to be good as gone before anything could really be done. But again, I would say for some of y'all, if you really don't need to spend it, if you don't really need to use it or utilize it, put that up for a rainy day. You never know when it'll come in handy. Even that little small bit could start you somewhere. Like I said, they just trying to change up a whole bunch of different things, but that's why it's important to pay attention to what you need to pay attention to. You know, because trust me, some of these things will at some point, end up affecting you. But that's what I'm saying. When you end up getting something in particular, again, just think and rationalize before you just do anything. But yeah, I think the link is still pinned in case anybody want to chime in. But if not, let me put this up again. You say they trying to buy your vote. Trust me, Keith, I already know busy night for everybody on the plantation right now. For those who might be at work right now, hopefully you have a smooth night shift. Hopefully everything will be in your favor. You know. But yeah, just a little light-hearted conversation tonight. Um, Hopefully somebody did get something out of it. Like I said, one thing I will say, and even for this portion of the podcast, like I was saying, for those who are building and having these conversations, you got to make sure that you have the right type of ample support. That's from your co-panel host and anybody else. If they say they're going to be a part of the growth, make sure that they stick to their words. The one thing I will say though is that in some instances, some people will branch off. You know, facts, James. Shoot, we still at 62 in the city, but I think the temperature might drop tonight. But it's a breezy 62, so the humidity ain't too crazy. And yeah, for those who might be in them areas where it done dropped to the 50s and below, please make sure y'all keeping yourselves warm, keeping yourselves safe. And if you don't have to be out there, keep yourself indoors. But for those that gotta be out and about, make sure you dress accordingly and just keeping yourself healthy as possible. But again, for those that need to hear it, those that are building, those that are already established, for those that are already established, y'all pretty much know what y'all need. You pretty much know how you want to go about doing what's necessary for your brand. So again, try to bring the best out of it, you know. And again, if you got people who are not willing to listen to reason, or if you got people who are just not adding nothing constructive or anything, of positivity and prosperity to the platform, then don't bring them on. Because again, in some instances, they're gonna basically take away from the pure content you're bringing. You know, and that's something that nobody should have to worry about. Content being ruined because people can't be in control of their actions and their thought process. But I honestly believe, in my opinion, there are some people that should, again, never be on or try to do a podcast because, again, if you're not bringing nothing to substance, you're basically just wasting space. And to be quite honest, if you are doing positive content on any level, whether it's by yourself or with a group of people, again, make sure you keep the drama to a minimum. Nothing more, nothing less. Keep the drama to a minimum and keep your peace more than anything. I believe there's a lot of things that could be done. It's all just about respect. And for some of you men and women out there who are going to be a part of these conversations, again, have some good knowledge and wisdom. But also, again, remain respectful. If you don't want to be disrespected, if you don't want to get talked down on, or if you don't want to be a target, then again, have some respect. For some of you hosts out there, for some of you channel holders, again, make sure you're bringing the best. Keep everything to a minimum, and whatever you feel you're going to add to it, you add to it. But again, find your niche, stick to it, and keep grinding. And remember that the grind never stops unless you decide to stop yourself. Focus on your main goals at hand, and you work from there. But if nobody want to chime in, I'm not going to hold y'all all night. I just wanted to have these little quick topics of convo. But again, at least for this last portion, again, y'all men and women who are going to be coexisting on these platforms, please have some respect for each other. Don't come with that masculine energy and then play victim once you get checked. Because you might have somebody who's going to check you, and they ain't going to check you all disrespectfully. They're going to kill you with kindness. And some people, they just going to be dirty. So you pick your poison. You really shouldn't have to. You should just be able to have decent combos and have decent dialect without ignorance involved in it. But, you know, some people, it's easier said than done. For those celebrating birthdays this week, again, we didn't forget about you. We did not forget about you. May y'all enjoy your birthdays this week and this upcoming weekend. And yeah, we got another important birthday coming next week. I'm trying to debate how we gonna do this thing here. I'll definitely be doing a live stream. It might be kind of early. It depends. I'm gonna see how I do this. But yeah, again, hopefully somebody did get something out of the topics that I brought up tonight. Hopefully somebody got a laugh out of that second topic because I really hope that they not thinking about trying to really put that into law. But just be prepared. They might still try to pass one off though, yeah. So again, be careful. They're saying that if you smoke marijuana, you might not be able to purchase or own a gun. Like I said, I don't know if that's really going to get put into order. If it does, that's crazy when you got other things you could be trying to implement as far as gun safety. But it is what it is. You know, you don't know what's all being talked about behind the scenes, but just prepare yourselves for it. Appreciate everybody that's been a part of the build, still becoming a part of the build. And yeah, we still gonna have these topics and conversations. And anytime the link is pinned, y'all already know y'all more than welcome to hit the link and be a part of the conversation. For some of y'all, you might not want to talk about some of these topics, and again, it's understandable. But like I said, I'm all for having the talks, especially the talks that could lead to some form of critical thinking and change again. So, we definitely needed that. And I see I lost a couple subscribers, but hey, who cares? The content ain't going to be for everybody. And I would also say this as again a reminder and a prime example. If you don't like the content, if you're not going to stand behind the content, if you don't support the content, there's no need for you to support at all. Find somewhere where you feel is good for you. I ain't holding nobody hostage. And to be quite honest, again, my content might not be for everybody. But that don't mean it's not meant for somebody, period. So, like I said, if you're going to support content, if you're going to support content creators, then again, support the content that resonates with you. And if you feel it doesn't resonate with you, not hard for you to find somewhere else. Facts, James. But yeah, that was something I was reading earlier and I laughed because I'm like, wow, if they really passed that into law, that would be the pettiest law you could pass. When there's other things, again, you could be doing to try to change as far as the gun safety is concerned. So, be on the lookout. Like I said, they trying to pass all sorts of bills. You don't know what could actually go through and what might get the boot. So you gotta make sure you're not placing anything that can affect you or affect your family. James number 8, popping yourself back in the church late. You must have thought you was getting something out of the collection plate. But yeah, like I said, you don't know what's being implemented, what might pass through law, what might not pass. But if that passes, that'd be the funniest law ever heard in my life. You can't own a weapon or a gun because you smoke weed. Make that make sense. What does your personal recreational gotta do with anything else? Like I said, I don't know too many people going out there after smoking a good blunt and going to commit a crime or possibly doing anything as far as gun violence is concerned. The most you gonna find is they gonna be ready to eat something and chill out and enjoy that high. So I don't think that should be a requirement as far as owning a gun. So, like I said, the things that they try to implement, some of it might be funny to y'all, but it's truthfulness right there. But yeah, just overall conversation that need to be had tonight. Like I said, for those who might be getting that little package, think twice before you just spend it or before you go crazy. Hold on one second. Who over here co-signing? Who over here co-signing? I see you, Didi. Stop co-signing over there. Co-signing over there. You another one coming in here without no pork chop sandwiches and stuff. James, you came to the podium without no pork chops and sodium. Always co-signing. I see you, Didi. Co-signing. Don't tell me to leave her alone. I'm gonna keep bothering. I'm gonna keep bothering. I'm gonna bother you next. How you come in here and ain't pass no grapes? You ain't pass apple juice? None of that. Come on now. What y'all supposed to love me, son? I hear you, James, number 8. And you ain't passed that to nobody in the chat. What are we talking about? Next time you come in here sliding on the dance floor and ain't passed me a pork chop sandwich, it's gonna be a problem. Pastor Nick gonna come out here and lay these hands on the forgotten lands. Hold on one second. And don't you tell me stop being greedy. Now you want to tell me to stop? You know what? I ain't gonna say nothing today. I yield the floor, damn it. I ain't gonna say nothing. Nobody steal no damn cheesecake, and I don't want no pecans on my damn cheesecake, man. Better go find some strawberries, some kiwi, or something. Told you, James, number 8, we ain't playing, man. We ain't playing. Red shirt, all the coffee cups in the chat. But yeah, again, like I said, hopefully somebody will get something out of this message tonight. For those that are, again, possibly gaining these little $2,000 checks, if you don't necessarily have to spend it, you better put it up for good use. I ain't treading nothing. I ain't treading nothing. don't worry. Before the new year, just want to give you all a heads up. Don't worry. Them AI drops is coming back. Oh yeah, I'm putting some new ones in there. You gonna learn today, damn it. You gonna learn today. And for those who haven't been feeling in the best of moods, go check out them damn shorts I've been dropping. It's about to be more. And there's more coming. And there's more coming. And there's more coming. I kinda like this little avatar. I think I'm gonna use it from now on. Who knows? At least until Halloween over. There y'all go trying to be on the sisterhood. There you go. Didi ain't innocent like you ain't innocent. I'm tired of this. Tired of this. Y'all all get treated the same way with love and respect. And Didi, how you co-signing that? See what I'm talking about? Now you owe everybody you owe everybody some brownies in here. Go in that kitchen, go get that tray of brownies out the oven, pass that along. Y'all over here slacking. Come over here and they bring no snacks, no nothing, no food festivities. Come on, man. Here it is. I thought y'all loved me. Nah, but again, think before you do anything with that little check that's coming to some of y'all. And for the last part of this podcast, like I said before, for those that need to hear it, especially those who are building, make sure you are putting the right type of tools, the right type of elements around your podcast and your shows, especially if you want the best content and the purest content. Not every podcast or show has to end on a sour note. And nobody should feel disorientated or angry or frustrated. You know, again, you having conversations, you're having a meeting of the minds. If you're not going to be able to at least be on that maturity level, then again, you should step back and wait until you are in that space to be somewhere. Period. You need to tend to closing out your show and stop co-signing. I'm co-signing everything, damn it. Co-signing everything. My name is Co-signing Jenkins, aka the Cheesecake Ambassador. And y'all owe me cheesecake restitution. Yeah. Y'all owe me about $5,000 worth of cheesecake. Mm-hmm. Y'all need to stop tending to co-signing with each other. Look at the sisterhood coming together. Look at y'all. Look at y'all. No. Oh, Didi about to find out the hard way. You about to let Sirius get you in trouble. All right. I'm going to charge something all right, that damn it. I done told you. I done told you. Don't want no damn neck bones, James number 8. You can't put neck bones on a cheesecake. Now go sit your ass down somewhere. Matter of fact, bring that Crown Royale out, man. Getting on my goddamn nerves. Playing with my emotions right now. Y'all think y'all tough. Y'all think y'all tough. Nah, but it's always good again to just have a good conversation amongst the people. I know some of y'all was invested everywhere else. Hey, it's all good. It's all good. Everybody catch the replay or share it out. But again, I feel there's a lot of things that could be done if there's respect and unity involved in it. So, hopefully the message resonated with somebody tonight. He's in recovery. He ain't in no recovery. He got that Jack Daniels out, man. Denise, baby. Hope all well with you. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. But that's all I'm saying. Again, it shouldn't take rocket science for some people to get it. You could have great in-depth conversations without all the nonsense and the unnecessary traffic. Your best bet, especially if you bring in positive content, is again just bringing positive results, bringing positive minded people, but also bringing people that know how to respect each other and can get on board when it comes down to the topics. You know, because again, you're gonna have some great shows and some great scenarios that are happening all around the board. That's because again, some people are gonna go through trial and error. Some people who freestyling and doing what they doing as far as the shows are concerned, they'll eventually figure it out, you know. But again, if you are gonna have a successful show and a successful podcast, you just gotta remember again, you are in control of what you're bringing, how you're bringing it. You know, it's gonna be critical for again you to know what substance you're bringing, and again, just continue to bring the best that you can. Not everything is going to be perfect, but in that same token, it should almost come close to. Know? Make sure you got the right type of men and women who, again, know how to conduct themselves. When you have people who don't, you'll pretty much get the results that you really don't want. And you don't want people coming with positive content. You don't want the wrong type of traffic. You don't want the wrong type of negativity. And when there are some situations to where you might have people who are trying to distract or destroy the content, you just gotta know how to get rid of it. That's all. And again, you know, don't be afraid to use your authority when you're supposed to. Because regardless to what, there should always be order, especially when it comes down to bringing the best content. You know? So, but I've held y'all long enough. I know some of y'all just tuning in. Some of y'all been in the bushes watching. Appreciate everybody that's been a part of the build and still becoming a part of the build. And yeah, I'll most likely be back tomorrow night with another combo. And the link will be dropped. But again, hopefully somebody got something out of this whole live stream from the beginning to the end. And for some of y'all, again, start paying attention to what's going on as far as your overall politics because there are some things that are definitely about to change, whether we want to believe it or not. So, time to get on board with what's going on so we could prepare for a brighter tomorrow at least. But yeah, let me get myself up out of here. It's time for me to be an adult. It's time for me to be an adult. For those that just tuned in, or for those who are late to the session, y'all can definitely catch this replay. Always a blessing to bring something to the people, and that's what we're gonna keep doing. But before I let y'all get up out of here, hold on. We go back again. We go back again. I appreciate y'all for rocking out. Time for me to get myself up out of here. And yeah, I'll do another live if not early afternoon, give or take. Get same time tomorrow night. Like I said, we definitely gonna have these talks and convos because right now they more needed than ever. So get myself up out of here. If y'all was new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Shout out to the replay game. Shout out to the Shadow Mafia and the Shadow Babies. Y'all know what it is, baby. For everybody that was in attendance tonight, y'all already know that love is love and they'll be reciprocated as such. I don't know how to be fake. All we do is give you real. And that's all I'm going to do is give you real topics and real builds. And again, I see y'all tomorrow, definitely. And again, for those that need a good laugh, yeah, go check out them shorts. Like I said, there's more coming. And there's more coming. And there's more coming. Y'all stay safe. Keep that third eye open. Until the next live, we out of here. Peace and blessings.